Hi, today I'm going to show you how you can save an old frame that has cracks in the head tube. You see it a lot with old alloy frames, particularly mountain bikes, because of the stresses that are here. They start to crack, usually down the sides here, and before long it's a failure. Traditionally, the only way to fix it is to completely strip the frame and have them re-welded, cracks welded up, and then the frame has to be heat treated, which means afterwards it has to be repainted, and it's just not economical. But I'm going to show you how to do it by just heating up and sliding on some stainless steel rings, which will then cool, shrink and pull it all back together and hold it tight. This bike, since I did the work back in May, that's 10 months ago, this bike has done the Land's End to John O'Groats, 1,063 miles. A third of that, well over 300 miles, was off-road, and it's been fine, it's been perfect. The only thing to worry about is if you have cracks in the welding. If there's cracks in the welding, then this technique won't be no good for you. But if the cracks are just in the tube, this technique will work for you. Coming up, I will show you how to actually do the work, and at the end of the video I will show you how to calculate the sizes for the rings so that they will heat shrink on properly. You will have to do some machine work. You'll have to machine these in a lathe or get someone to do that for you. But when it comes to heating them and shrinking them on, you can just do that with a cooker and a blowtorch. That's all I used, a family cooker and a blowtorch. So without further ado, jump back to May and see how I did it. Right, today I'm going to show you how to fix problems with the head tube here on your bike. If you just come in, have a look at this one. Can you see the crack here, and a lovely big crack there. Now you can see they've got pen marks on, so I'm checking in they're not growing, but I want to fix them permanently. So I like this old nail trail bike. It's ancient, it's 20 years old, but I want to keep it, so I want to fix these, and we're going to fix them, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so first I'm going to show you why these head tubes break in the first place. So pretend this is my head tube, my forks. Now if you're going over bumps, if you can see this, what it's doing is it's just come in, you can just see it stressing the top and the bottom of the tube, and it's repeatedly stressing it, and then you get metal fatigue as a result of that, and the cracks appear. And alloy is particularly prone to this. You don't see this in metal frame bikes, but it's a real problem with alloy frame bikes, and we're going to fix it by making some rings out of some stainless steel and sliding them on while they're red hot, and they're going to contract and they're going to pull the head tube back together. Right, so now we strip the bike down. You can see see the headstock here. So the next job I've got to do is remove all the paint. I can see, so I'm laying it down and I'm going to remove the paint with a sander. I'll make a lot of noise. Here we go. Just come in. So look, now we've taken all the paint off, you can see the cracks, but we're also going to have to grind away the top half of this weld here and the bottom half of this weld. Now there's not the strength, the main strength in the weld is here, so we're not actually weakening it overly much by taking that out. But we've got to make a channel large enough to slide a ring over. Now a lot of head tubes are already longer than this, and you don't have to do this, but because the head tube is so short, that's why I'm having to do this on this one. Come on in. Okay, so I've ground out two sections here and here. I want to look around there too. Need to see what you're doing, so. And what you're trying to do is not take away too much meat from the pipe here, but you're also trying to get a depth of about 10 millimeters down there, which is, I've got 9, that will do. I'm not going to cut any more away. And you're trying to get consistent all the way around. About 41.5, 41.6 is what I need for my pipe that I've chosen to use. The pipe I've chosen to use is this piece of stainless steel here. I'm going to have this machine down into two 10mm rings. One ring on, and now this is the bottom ring. Going to heat it up and wear it out. So I'm going to hold it in a way that I can slide it on. And I'm using the cooker as well as this blowtorch to get it hot enough. Like that. We want a dull red colour. That's the colour we're going for. Just dull red. You don't have to be bright cherry red, just dull red is good enough. That's about 700 degrees. You don't want it any hotter because then it'll start melting the alloy. Alloy melts at around about 700 degrees. Takes a little bit of time to get it that hot. Not instant by any means. Just starting to go cherry red on the edge. That ain't anything yet. The whole thing's got to be heated up to that temperature. Yeah, just starting to go red now all the way around. Apart from this end, ain't red yet. The blowtorch is getting it hot and the fire is keeping it warm. It will cool down pretty darn fast. Okay, we're ready with cherry red. Let's go. Before it runs out of steam, we've got to get it on. Just looking to make sure it's a square. It doesn't have to be perfectly square, but I can't move it now, it's cooled down too much. So that's it. We've got a top one and a bottom one. The groove has been nicely cut out to accommodate it. We can see where I ground out here at the top and the bottom. Just have a look there, top and the bottom there. We'll let that cool down and then we'll prep it for paint. We've got our rings on and they're cold now. And I've even rubbed them down, ready for paint. They won't move. I've tried hitting them with a hammer, you can't move them. It's a bit of a shame because that one's slightly bent, not quite straight, but at the end of the day that doesn't matter. I'm going to fill in where I ground out any excess area now. I'm going to fill in with a little bit of epoxy, plastic metal. Just mix it up. Job done. This doesn't give it any strength, all it does is just fill up the gaps so that it looks decent when it comes to paint it. We've finished the job basically now, if you want to come in. And I didn't bore you with how I painted it or how I smoothed off the epoxy metals, because you can find that out anywhere else. But there's one more thing we've got to do. Now we've finished it, we need to grind out where the cups were. Not just because there's overspray there, but also because when the metal ring pulled the broken alloy back together, you might have little cracks on the inside that have formed roughness, so you just want to smooth them down. create a nice surface in there for the cup to go into. Take our cup, see if it fits. Yep, it's nice, so that'll just press in like normal. And that's the job finished. So the very last bit of this video, I'm going to show you the mathematics on how to calculate the size for these rings and machine them off. But I'll save that bit till last. Well, you got to be keen to have got this far into the video, so let's see what we're dealing with. Here's a picture of the top of your head tube with its cracks. What we're going to do is we're going to get a red hot sleeve, slide it on. As it cools, it pulls the cracks together, and it ends up being smaller in diameter, or trying to be smaller in diameter than the tube it's wrapped round, and that's what holds it fast and keeps it stuck there. The first thing we're going to have to do is make some measurements. We need to measure the front to back diameter of our crack ring, and then we need to measure the side to side diameter of our cracked ring. You'll find that the front to back is slightly larger than the side to side due to the cracking and the distortion. But if you have got a front to back which is more than 1% larger than the side to side, then you're going to have to either put it in a vise, compress it, crush it in a press, or hit it with a hammer. You've got to get it to within 1% of roundness, because the coefficient of shrinkage you're going to get is about just over 1%, about 1.25%, that sort of figure, depending on the material that you use. And so to the calculations. First of all, we need to measure our head tube. The Marin nail trail head tube is made of 1 5/8 of an inch alloy. It's 41.275 millimeters OD. I measured mine. Side to side it's 41.25 at the minimum, and front to back it's 41.55, so it's within 1%, so I'm going to be able to slip a sleeve straight on this. So I've got to find the right type of steel to make it out. If I make it out of mild steel, that's no good, it's too soft. I'd like to make it out of carbon steel, but I can't, because when I heat it up to dull cherry red, it's going to anneal it and it's going to lose all of its strength. And the only thing that has strength and keeps its strength when it's hot is stainless steel. And there are various grades of stainless steel. But the only one I could easily find available was type 304. And I picked 1.5 inch schedule 40 tube that has a 4.83 millimeter OD and a 3.6 millimeter wall thickness. Now that's good, 3.6 millimeters, because it's similar to the thickness of the original head tube, so it's going to be strong. That means it ends up theoretically with an internal diameter of 41.1 millimeters, which is, when it shrinks down, still smaller than the smallest side to side measurement for my tube. So it's going to be tight on there, and that's what you're looking for. If you can't get something that's just slightly smaller than the smallest dimension of your tube, then you're going to have to buy some thicker metal and machine it down. But magically this steel pipe, this 1.5 inch schedule 40, is the right size, or at least it's supposed to be. But what often happens, unfortunately, is that manufacturers skimp on the wall thickness, get it right down to as close to tolerance as they can, and whilst maintaining the outer diameter, which means that the inner diameter is often larger than you need it to be. So you end up having to either buy a thicker pipe and machine it down, or go to a better brand of pipe which they don't skimp so much on the metal. The thermal coefficient of type 304 is 17.3 parts per million, so I need to multiply that by 1 e to the minus 6, 1 times 10 to the minus 6, to get the factor, which in my case here is 1.73 times 10 to the minus 5. So dull cherry red, that's about 725 degrees C, and we're going to drop it from that temperature down to room temperature. That's a 700 degree temperature change. So you multiply that 700 degree temperature change by the factor 1.73 e to the minus 5, and you get 1.21%. That's how much it's going to shrink. It's going to shrink by 1.21%. So we take our cold internal dimension of 41.1 and increase it by 1.21%, and we get 41.6 millimeters, which is just going to be big enough to slide over the broken, cracked head tube, because its maximum diameter was 41.55. So this will slide on when we've heated it up, and it will cool down and try to be smaller than the smallest dimension of the head tube, and therefore it will be stuck there forever. You'll never get rid of it. It'll just be like a limpet seized on there. Well, you've suffered my video, you've seen all the stuff. I'll leave you with a summary of the calculations, and just freeze that, print it off, and well, good luck.